Have you ever felt like you were talking to someone from a completely different planet? Well, today we're going to take that idea literally. We're about to explore the huge challenges of human connection, not through self-help books, but through the strange and fascinating lens of three alien societies from the world of fiction.
And this quote, man, it just gets right to the heart of it. These stories aren't really windows into other worlds. Nope, they're mirrors for our own. By looking into these bizarre fictional reflections, we can actually see our own struggles with connection in some pretty startling new ways.
So that gets us to the big question, right? How do we bridge these impossible gulfs that separate one mind from another? It's one of the most fundamental problems of being alive. We're all kind of trapped in our own heads, constantly trying and sometimes failing to reach out. To really dig into this, we're going to look at three incredible case studies. First up, we have the listeners, where the biggest barrier to connection is time itself. Then we'll explore the great quiet, where it's all about consent. And finally, we meet the translators, who teach us that real communication might just require a radical change of identity. All right, our first mirror is the world of the Amith. For them, the problem of connecting wasn't about language or culture or anything like that. It was something way more fundamental. The very fabric of time was what divided them from us. I mean, the sheer scale of the difference here is just staggering. To an Amith, an entire human lifespan flashes by in about 18 months. Think about that. An urgent, hours-long human conversation, for them, it's just a bright, uncatchable flicker. It's gone before they can even begin to think of a reply. And the result? Well, it's this incredibly sad, almost darkly funny tragedy of miscommunication. Human colonists show up, they build a whole civilization, they plead for help, and then they die out over 11 generations, all before the Amith can even put together a simple hello. By the time they finally speak, they're just talking to silent, crumbling ruins. So from the Amith's perspective, these colonists were suffering from a pretty unique disease. They called it an illness of time. They saw our speed, our constant need for an immediate response, as a kind of spiritual sickness, a deep poverty of patience. And the human ambassador, Tai, just hits the nail on the head when she explains our condition with these powerful words. We're terrified of silence, of emptiness. So we rush, we build, we create. We'll do anything to make time feel solid, like something we can actually hold on to, just so we don't have to face that void. So the lesson here from the Amith is pretty profound. Real connection is just impossible without a shared sense of time. True listening demands a kind of patience so deep, it might feel like an eternity to us. It asks us to just wait and let the answer arrive when it's good and ready. Okay, so that's the problem of too little connection. But what if the problem is the exact opposite? What if we have too much connection? Our second mirror, the world of the Oshreth, shows us how perfect understanding can actually become a waking nightmare. Imagine this. The Oshreth create the ultimate social network. They called it the Weave. It was this incredible technology that linked every single mind on the planet. I mean, it was supposed to be utopia, right? Designed to end loneliness and conflict forever. Every thought, every memory, every dream, completely shared. But this utopia, it started to rot from the inside out. First, private dreams just dissolved into this shared, chaotic mess. Then, people began to literally lose themselves. They couldn't tell which thoughts or memories were even their own anymore. The only cure was this desperate, planet-wide withdrawal into total silence. And in the aftermath, Oshreth society came up with this new, almost sacred rule. Communication is an intrusion. Speaking to someone without their explicit permission is like breaking into their home. It's an act of violation because you're literally putting your thoughts into their private space without their consent. And this line from a survivor of the Weave, wow, it just reveals this terrifying paradox they stumbled into. They weren't lonely when they were separate. No, they became profoundly lonely inside the total connection because they couldn't find their own self anymore in the noise of everybody else. So the lesson from the Oshreth is that connection without boundaries, well, it's basically a kind of violence. They learned the hard way that true community absolutely requires consent, privacy, and the protective, healing power of just being silent. All right, so we've seen the danger of moving too fast and the danger of getting way too close. Our third and final mirror, the Vash, presents the most radical idea yet. What if true communication means you have to stop being, well, you? See, for us, translation is pretty straightforward, right? You swap words, you swap concepts. Language is a tool that we use. But for the Vesh, true translation, what they call crossing, means you temporarily become a person for whom that language is native. You don't just speak their language, you adopt their entire way of being. The Vesh translators are literally fractured into multiple selves, one for each language they live in. But here's the crazy part. They don't see this as a mental illness or some kind of wound. They see it as an expanded consciousness. Each one of those fractures is a doorway to a brand new way of seeing the world, a new way of feeling empathy.
And that's the core of their lesson. The Vish are suggesting that the deepest kind of understanding isn't just sympathy. It's a terrifying, total empathy. It's the willingness to let go of your fixed identity and be fundamentally changed by the person you're trying to connect with.
Okay, so what do these three alien mirrors, the listeners, the Oshreth, and the translators, what do they all show us about ourselves? Let's try and bring all these profound lessons together. When you put it all together like this, a really clear framework starts to pop out. The listeners teach us the practice of patience through deep, deep listening. The Great Quiet teaches us about consent through respectful silence, and the translators teach us about empathy through the radical act of becoming someone else. And I think the ultimate takeaway from all of these mirrors is this. Connection isn't some technology problem we can solve with a new app or a better network. It's a deeply human practice, a skill that we build through patient listening, clear boundaries, and the open vulnerability it takes to truly see another person. And that leaves us with one last, really challenging thought to chew on. We spend so much energy trying to make sure others understand us, right? To get our point across. But what if we have it all backwards? What if the true purpose of reaching out to another mind isn't to be understood, but to be fundamentally changed by the encounter?